A ghostly black carriage emerges from the swirling snow in the Austrian Alps, pulled by spectral horses with glowing eyes. The shadowy driver sits motionless atop, as the eerie glow of the moon barely penetrates the stormy sky. Deep in the Austrian Alps, where the peaks pierce the heavens and the valleys echo with the howling of the wind, there exists a legend whispered among villagers and weary travelers alike, the tale of the phantom coach asterisk. A ghostly carriage, black as a starless night, roams the frozen roads, pulled by spectral horses whose hooves make no sound upon the snow. The driver, a hooded figure shrouded in tattered robes, never speaks, save for one chilling word. Enter. Asterisk. Some say those who heed the call are never seen again, while others claim the coach is an omen of tragedy, a harbinger of death that only the doomed can see. No one knows the truth for certain. No one, except Elias Gruber. He was a man of science, of reason, a scholar who scoffed at folktales and superstition. But on one fateful night in the winter of 1876, as he ventured alone through the treacherous asterisk Grossglockner Pass, Elias Gruber came face to face with the legend he once ridiculed. And in that moment, logic and reason ceased to matter. This is his story. The journey begins. The wind howled like a beast starving for prey as Elias Gruber adjusted his heavy woolen cloak and trudged forward through the snow. His boots crunched against the ice-covered path, each step slower than the last as the relentless cold gnawed at his bones. Despite the bitter chill, he pressed on. Gruber had left Vienna weeks earlier, determined to collect first-hand accounts of Alpine folklore. The tales of the phantom coach fascinated him, not because he believed them, but because of the grip they held on the local people. He intended to study the legend, analyze its origins, and eventually write a paper disproving its existence. Now, as he climbed higher into the pass, the sky darkened, thick clouds blotting out the last hints of daylight. The villagers in Heiligenblut had warned him against traveling alone after sunset. The storm will take you, one had said. Or worse, the coach. Elias had laughed. Now, with the wind slicing through his clothing like daggers of ice, he was beginning to regret his arrogance. Elias Gruber braves the stormy Austrian Alps, his lantern barely cutting through the swirling snow. The treacherous mountain pass looms ahead, whispering unseen dangers in the night. A warning ignored. As dusk fell, Gruber paused to catch his breath, leaning against a snow-covered boulder. The storm was worsening. Snowflakes lashed at his face like tiny needles, the cold so intense it felt like it was seeping into his very soul. He fumbled with his lantern, shielding the weak flame from the wind. The light flickered, barely illuminating the path ahead. A sudden sound made him freeze. Hoofbeats. At first, he thought it was the wind playing tricks on his ears. But no, there it was again. A slow, rhythmic clatter, growing louder with each passing second. His breath caught in his throat. No one should be traveling this road at this hour. Gruber turned, squinting through the storm. And then he saw it. Emerging from the swirling snow, a carriage materialized like a nightmare made real. Black as midnight, its surface glistened like polished obsidian. The wheels turned without a sound, gliding effortlessly over the ice. 4 horses, tall and gaunt, their coats shimmering with an eerie silver glow, pulled the carriage forward. Their breath fogged the air, their eyes burning with unnatural light. But it was the driver that sent ice through Gruber's veins. Perched atop the carriage, the figure loomed, wrapped in a tattered black cloak that seemed to shift and ripple as if alive. Gruber wanted to move, wanted to run, but his legs refused to obey. The carriage rolled to a stop. The door swung open. Through the raging blizzard, a ghostly black carriage materializes, pulled by spectral horses. Elias Gruber, frozen in shock, grips his lantern as the silent driver watches from atop the eerie coach. An invitation to the unknown. A deep silence swallowed the world. Even the wind had ceased its howling. A single word drifted from the darkness within the carriage. Enter. Gruber swallowed hard, his mind racing for a logical explanation. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. And yet, the carriage stood before him, solid and tangible, its presence undeniable. No, he managed to whisper, taking a step back. I must be hallucinating. The driver, motionless until now, turned its head toward him. Though its face remained hidden beneath the hood, Gruber felt its gaze, piercing through the night, reaching into the very core of his being. He staggered backward. I won't go with you. The driver raised a gloved hand and pointed toward the road behind Gruber. Confused, he turned. The path he had come from was gone. Only darkness remained. Panic surged through him. His mind screamed at him to run, but the road ahead was treacherous, the snow deep, the storm relentless. If he turned away from the carriage, he would surely freeze before reaching shelter. But if he entered, somewhere, deep inside, he knew there would be no return. Another gust of wind howled through the pass, nearly knocking him off his feet. The cold bit through his clothing like a living thing, cruel and merciless. Trembling, he made his choice, and stepped inside. Elias Gruber stands at the open door of the phantom coach, staring into the abyss within. The spectral horses wait silently, their breath misting in the frozen air, while the hooded driver remains eerily still. Snow swirls around them, carrying whispers of an unknown fate. The ride of no return. The door slammed shut behind him. Inside the carriage, the air was thick with an oppressive silence. The walls seemed to stretch endlessly into darkness, a void that swallowed all light. The horses began to move. Gruber sat stiffly, his body rigid with fear. A cold sweat beaded on his forehead, despite the chill in the air. Then, the whispers began. Soft at first, like the rustling of dead leaves. Then louder. Another lost soul. Asterisk. He sought the truth, but the truth sought him first. Asterisk. You will ride forever. Asterisk. Gruber clenched his fists, forcing himself to breathe. This is a dream, he muttered. A fevered illusion of the mind. The driver's voice, low and hollow, echoed through the carriage. Is it? Gruber opened his mouth to protest, but the words died on his tongue. Outside the window, the landscape had changed. No longer the snow-covered mountains. No longer the familiar peaks of Austria. Instead, there was only darkness. Endless. Infinite. The coach was no longer moving through the Alps. It was traveling somewhere else. Asterisk. His breath came faster. He turned to the driver, his voice barely above a whisper. Where are we going? The figure did not answer. Instead, the door swung open once more. Gruber turned, his heart hammering against his ribs. Outside, in the abyss of shadows, something was waiting. A shape, impossible to define, shifting and writhing, its very presence an affront to reality. A skeletal hand reached out and pulled him into the void. Inside the phantom coach, Elias Gruber sits in an eerie bluish glow, trapped in an endless void of darkness. Shadows whisper around him as the motionless hooded driver guides the carriage toward an unknown fate. He clutches his coat tightly, realizing he may never return. Epilogue. A warning to the living. Days later, a search party found Elias Gruber's frozen corpse near the summit of Grossglockner Pass. His face was twisted in an expression of unspeakable horror. Beside him, the imprint of carriage wheels marked the snow. The villagers buried him in a quiet corner of the churchyard. No one spoke of the phantom coach, but everyone knew the truth. Some say he still rides with it, his soul forever trapped in its endless journey. Others believe he was merely the latest victim of an ancient curse. But one thing is certain. On stormy nights, when the wind howls through the Alps and the snow falls thick upon the ground, if you hear the sound of hoofbeats approaching, do not stop, do not look, and whatever you do, do not enter.